pit.
Still love that horn, man. It's
Oh
gorgeous.
man. Let's talk about this horn.
Yeah.
Why do you like this?
I love those
horn?
braces. The braces
Yeah.
on it are just, I mean, what a cool design.
Have you ever seen anything like it?
No.
I've
It's
looked
wonderful.
ever since I got this horn. I've looked for another one just like it.
Yeah.
I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah,
I don't
it's the
know
only
if
one I've
it's-
ever seen.
It could have been a prototype. Did they prototype stuff in the 20s and 30s?
I don't know enough about it. I was never much of a gear head.
Uh-huh.
I know just enough to get by,
Yeah.
and the most random stuff that nobody would really know.
Right.
And that's useless.
Well, you've done something really interesting with this, so I
Yeah.
want to ask you about it. But let me introduce you to everyone at home. I'm John Cavelli. Welcome to Trombone is Enough, episode 3. My guest today is Aaron Chandler,
Yeah.
good buddy of mine who I've known for a long time. I've
Yeah.
been admiring your playing
Same.
for years and years, man.
Same.
So thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I was just asking Aaron about his horn and this interesting item that would you call it an aftermarket attachment?
I would say so. I'll start at the beginning with this horn. Our
yeah.
good friend DJ Kennedy. This might have been like 13, 14 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
I was visiting him and looking at horns and picking up stuff, and he threw this horn in the trunk of my car with no case and just threw it in there. Yeah, it was. He does stuff like that,
You're
man. It
kidding.
was like a gift, kind of. You
Oh
know?
my God.
Because he had one that he kept in his car. It's the same model and everything. It's an Olds special.
Oh my God. Olds are great
Yeah,
horns,
this
right?
is like an early '60s Olds special.
Holy
He
smokes.
threw it in the trunk of my car. I didn't really notice, and then this was
You
like,
didn't notice?
yeah, this was probably like 11 or 12 years ago.
Oh my God.
I went to twofold on the story.
Yeah.
My buddy Darren Bergfeld from Cape Girardeau, trombone player. We were college buddies, roommates, and all that stuff. And I was showing him something else to possibly sell him, and I popped my trunk open. I was like, "Yeah, check this horn out." And he goes, "Wait, what's that?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is." So he's more interested in this thing. He
Right.
pulls it out.
Yeah.
And he starts blowing on it. He's like, "How much you want for it?" And I heard it, and I went, "Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know."
Maybe
And
it's not for sale.
Yeah, it might not be for sale. I took it home, fixed it up, and cleaned it up, and
So
started
it's an
blowing
Olds,
on it.
It's an Olds special,
Special,
and it's
yeah.
maybe from the 60s. Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
yeah. It's
Okay.
like an early '60s, and it's got the nickel taper here, and the kind of a almost rose brass bell flare on it.
Yeah,
And
that's amazing.
these things are just fantastic. I bored out the mouthpiece receiver.
Oh, you did?
And the lead pipe a little bit so that it fits standard, because all these Olds had their own special taper for
Oh,
their
great.
own mouthpieces.
Okay.
So
Oh.
a regular one fits, but kind of doesn't.
Okay.
So I made that
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
And then, not too long after I started playing this horn, same guy, Darren, hit me up, and he goes, "Hey man, will you make me counterbalance weight that's Wu-Tang?"
Oh, get out.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay.
And I went, "Sure." So I started making it, and when I made it, I went, "Man, you can't have this either."
Oh.
So I put it on this horn,
Right.
and it's stayed there ever since.
And you never made
I
one
never
for him?
made one for him. And
Oh,
sorry,
man.
D.
Yeah.
Sorry, it is what it is, buddy.
If you're watching out there, I guess the answer is still no. You can't have it.
You can't have this.
Can't have that. Oh man, what a hilarious story.
It gives this thing a special flavor. So
You know, this kind of accentuates the aspect of a trombone that I have to admit I didn't know before probably 4 or 5 years ago, that these are actually two separate pieces in
Yeah.
a factory, right?
yeah,
Do you know how
Yeah.
they fit those things together? I mean,
yeah. Well, they're both made out of just a sheet of brass, and this one's folded over and hammered down, and the seams are hammered down and brazed.
You mean
can
there's a
see-
seam?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, there's a seam, and you can sometimes you can see it, and it'll be brazed all along here, and then they'll make this flare it out, on a form on a lathe,
Okay.
and then they'll braze that together around here,
That's
and then
fascinating.
they get it all straightened out and
Wow.
smashed down and looking pretty.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you always played on a trombone of this size, or have you changed
Oh.
sizes over the years?
Yeah, sizes over the years. I started with an old busher, And the reason I started trombone
Yeah,
is
please tell me
because
that.
starting band in 6th grade,
Yeah.
my uncle had one in the closet.
Oh,
And
wow.
I spent hours and hours and hours with a can of Brasso in the backyard,
Oh, really?
wiping it down so it could be pretty and shiny like all the other kids' horns.
Sure, yeah.
And I didn't realize at the time how cool it is to have a horn with no lacquer that is just has all these colors and imperfections and there's purples and greens and all kinds of great stuff happening.
You're right. You do want to polish that horn, and then later you see someone with the patina horn, and you think, oh, I should let mine go.
Yeah, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and then I think when I was a junior in high school, I got a King 4B.
Okay, kind of
and
big.
that was my upgrade horn. Yeah, and I played that until I got to college, and then I moved on to the 42.
Is that smaller or bigger?
Bigger.
It's bigger.
Yeah, it's a 540. Well, I guess it's the same size maybe as the 4B. I think that's right.
Okay.
They're the same size, but it sounded a little better.
Is that Con?
It's King.
That's another King horn.
The Bach.
The Bach. Okay.
Yeah, the Bach.
Okay, so you went 42. From King to Bach.
Yeah,
okay.
And that was from my lesson instructor in college to get a matching kind of sound for wind ensemble and things, an orchestra and things like that.
Okay.
That was kind of the standard at the time.
Okay.
In the early '90s. And a few years after that, I decided I was a rebel, and I was working at Shivelbein's Music in Cape Girardeau.
Wow. Okay.
And one of the guys went upstairs, and while I was working, he brought down this case that looked untouched from the early '80s. It was new old stock, and it was a Con 100H. It had the curvy hand grip on it and everything, which you never see on those things.
Yeah.
Because it was such an early production model. And those things were just, they were a Larry Minnick design.
Okay.
Because he was making them, and I think he may have sold or worked with Con on designing that 100H, and it was kind of his thing.
And new old stock means it's brand new,
it's
but
brand
never
new,
used.
but never used. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was from the early '80s, and it had been sitting there forever.
Wow.
And they gave me a
deal?
Sweet deal. I might have paid a couple.
Do you still have that horn?
Nope, sold it.
Oh, you did?
I sold it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I played that for a lot of years, and I also at the time had a Sterling King 2B, and two of them. They were matching.
Oh, wow.
They were matching serial numbers from the same month.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, it was like October of '62, and they both had U.S. Navy printed on the bell and the month and date that they were made.
Okay.
So that was really cool.
So you went from like a 4B and a bigger horn to a 2B.
To the smaller stuff.
And do you recall if that took some getting used to or not?
No, not at all. It felt so comfortable.
Really?
I would take those Sterling Bell 2Bs to brass quintet.
Really?
And it felt good. You know.
Yeah.
The only thing it didn't have was the trigger and stuff, but
man,
it just fit. It still fit. You know.
Yeah.
I still got to be me.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. You with your big sound.
Yeah.
And I can imagine. Have you always been? I always notice when you're playing that you're really supportive. With the air.
Yeah.
Which is what I try and get my students to do.
Yeah.
It's what my teacher tried to get me to do.
Yeah.
I really didn't figure that out till later in life how important that was.
Yeah.
But you're still playing like big
diaphragm
player?
This is all muscle right in here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's covered up by a little layer.
Well, protective insulation. Yeah. But so moving from a larger to a smaller, it didn't really matter.
It's never mattered to me.
Yeah.
I think it probably at the end of a long night, it takes less work for me to work with a smaller one.
Okay.
So I've just stuck with those.
Yeah. So a long night. If you don't know Aaron yet, you should get to know his band, Funky Butt Brass Band.
Yeah.
We can talk about them. But a long night could be what, like 4-hour gig?
Yeah.
Into the late, early morning hours.
We do 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. down at the Broadway Oyster Bar.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And those are the hard ones.
Yeah, for sure. I know those hours are kind of tough. When did you start playing with them, and how did that come about?
So I moved to St. Louis in 2001.
Okay.
And at the time, St. Louis was a bit of a cliquey kind of scene. and I sat around doing nothing for 6 years.
Oh, no way. Really?
I would go try to sit in with people, and bands and stuff, and people I knew, even people I knew, and kind of knew and all that, and it was just a little bit of a weird vibe. And what I figured out was I didn't grow up here, and I didn't go to school here, and I didn't go to school with anybody who went here, who was here,
Yeah.
And so I was an outsider, and back in those days, it kind of didn't matter what you're playing or how you're playing. It was just, it was pretty tight knit.
Yeah.
And I just got lucky and got a call from our drummer Ron Sykes, and he said, "Hey, we're thinking about putting this brass band thing together. You want to do it?"
Wow.
And I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "Do you know a trumpet player?" And I said, "Yep, I know Adam Hookey."
So you already knew Adam?
I knew him. We had done a handful of gigs together in this wedding band, and that was a whole scene.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of great players came through that little wedding band.
Oh, really?
Nathan Jacko was in it for a little while, and other cats like that. And it was a lot of fun. We had a good time doing it.
Yeah. So you went way back with Aaron or Adam. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I mean, at that point, I'd maybe known him for a year, or something like that. And I said, "Hey, let's go try this thing out and see what it's like." And we did, and it just kind of stuck.
Wow.
And after that, it just kept sticking, and people just kept wanting more, and so we just kept doing more. And that was, we started that in 2007.
Wow. Okay. And you guys are top draw, and
we do well. We have fun.
Very much demand, right? And draw big crowds, and really sound great too. I love your playing. You and Adam seem to be like the utility pair. Yeah. You're in a lot of other groups. Could you talk about the other groups that you and Adam play in? Just,
We did, one of my favorite things we did around like 2010, 2012 was a group called Slam, and it was a live band with all hip hop and R&B tunes, and we wore velour tracksuits, and we'd get out and play like Justin Timberlake, man,
That's great.
Yeah,
that's so fun.
Do stuff like that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I love that music.
Yeah,
so it was a real trip for me to do that stuff. And I mean, I don't know if I could recount all the different things we've done over the years together. But
well, I've seen you with the Rolling Stones group.
Street Fighting Band.
Street Fighting Band. Thank you. I've seen you with them. It seems like just about any time a band needs a horn section, they call on you and Adam. Yeah. And you guys sound so good together, and now it makes sense that you were playing together for a year or so before you started Funky Butt. Yeah. And I didn't realize that you were a founding member.
Yeah.
You, Ron, Adam.
Me, Adam, and Ron are the 3 remaining founding members of the band.
Wow. How different was it when? Did you always have tuba then, playing bass stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so you never went from electric bass to tuba.
No.
But then big change on tuba players just a few years back, right?
Yeah, we went from Matt Brinkman, who I never once heard him miss a note. Ever. I mean,
really?
He did. He didn't miss.
Yeah.
Ever. It was mind blowing.
Right.
And he was just solid and just there, and he was happy with being quiet and back in the corner, and he could play, man. He could play.
Yeah.
He wasn't the solo kind of guy, soloing and flashy or any of that, but man, he never missed.
Always solid, right?
Always solid.
Yeah.
And then he decided to retire.
Okay.
And we had the idea. We knew Cody Henry had bought a horn recently, and he was just goofing around for fun.
Oh, you're kidding?
No. And he had, by the time he joined Funky Butt, he'd maybe only been just goofing around on it for a year or 2, 3 at most. Yeah, it was just for fun. And we were like, "Would you like to come do this?"
Man.
And he did it.
What a perfect fit.
Did it,
I thought he had been playing a lot longer.
No, not at all.
I'll be darned. He's quite a trombone player.
Yeah, he's nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really, really good. So you started because it was your dad that
uncle.
Your uncle had it in the closet.
He had one in the closet.
You went to college. Did you study music in college?
Yeah,
you did. Where'd you go?
Music major, Southeast Missouri State.
Southeast Missouri State. Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I'm from down that way.
You are.
Middletown, middle of nowhere.
Got it. So when you said you moved to St. Louis, where had you come from? The
Cape.
College.
Yeah.
From Cape. Okay. And Okay. So let's talk about how you learned your styles and like teachers that made
Yeah.
a big difference in your life. Do you have any?
Oh, for sure. You know, my lesson instructor all through college was Bob Gifford.
Oh, okay.
He was a fantastic teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing bad to say about that guy. And one of the things I think he taught me, maybe even a little differently than his other students, was how to teach myself how to get better at certain things.
Oh, like, man, that's huge.
Like you can dial this in, you can figure this out, and here's the steps you might take to figure that out and what that might look like.
Okay.
So I always felt like I could do pretty much anything I wanted to do.
Okay.
Even though I can't play high, I can't play low.
Okay.
I'm just not that guy. I'm not a technical, fast, flashy player at all.
Okay.
But if I wanted to spend the time, I could figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend that time. That's not my voice, you know?
Yeah.
It just never was my voice. And there are guys like you and Cody and all these guys around who are so much better at that. Like, why would I waste my time messing with that?
Well, you know, you have a good point that it is important, if you can, to think about what you want to get good at, and that's always kind of been a problem for me, is just not being sure if I'm spending too much time on something I'm never going to get good on.
Yeah.
I've got, you know, some confidence issues. Have you ever had any issues with confidence in your playing?
Yeah, I think
Really?
I think everybody does. We all go through, you know, that thing where you tell yourself you're not good enough, and the imposter syndrome.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I fight that every day.
Do you really?
Every day, yeah.
I'm
like,
so surprised.
why am I? Whenever I'm on stage with people that I deeply respect and love, I'm like, why am I here? I'm the faker here? You know, I'm not good at this. But I heard somebody say one time that you know who doesn't get imposter syndrome? Imposters.
Wow. So everybody has it.
Everybody.
That's amazing. I, for the longest time, thought it was just me.
Yeah, no.
You know, and you know, we talked about this book that I'll mention at the beginning as a sponsor of the show. Let's see if I can maybe edit that out. A book that's helped. So, there we go. A book that's helped me quite a bit is Dan Rubright's book, and we're touching on some topics now that Dan helps us deal with, but dealing with imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and this is related to,
please,
but between teachers and where we're at right now.
Yeah.
While I was in college, I had the opportunity to work with Jim Martin quite a bit.
Oh wow!
And
what a great guy.
Yeah, he's the best, just the best.
Yeah.
And I remember my first lesson with him and the reason I wanted to study with him is I knew that Matt Kiyakowski, the Sarge from The Urge, which was one of my favorite bands ever.
Yeah.
I knew that he had taken lessons from Jim as well, and I really wanted to do that. Right?
Oh wow!
And I went in and I sat down and I said, you know, I want to know what you guys worked on. You know, I want to do stuff like that for sure. And he said, sound. It's all about the sound. What kind of sound you're making.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I went, okay, I can have my own voice, and I don't have to be somebody else.
Right. Right.
You know.
Did you learn that and right away, or did it take a
No,
time?
it was immediate. Yeah.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
I can have a unique sound, and I can be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that helps a lot with the imposter syndrome.
Okay.
When I have it, I remind myself what Jim said. Hey, if you sound good,
right,
you're going to sound like you know.
Well, and I love your sound. I know I tell you that all the time. You are just so so large. You know, it sounds great. It's like that sound that I would like to have, where you're playing so clearly, but there's so much power behind it. It's not sloppy.
Yeah.
It's not blat, blat, blat. But yet it has this energy behind it, and it's, for me, it's kind of hard to get that push. But you know, it seems like it maybe came natural for you. But, you know, do you have practice times daily, or do you any regular?
Never. No.
Okay.
No.
Just because you're probably too busy playing.
Yeah.
gigs.
The only times I really get to sit down and practice is when I need to learn new music for a show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had any of those recently that have been challenging?
Oh, every one of them. One of the things I deal with is ADHD.
Okay.
And that's very late diagnosed. I mean, I only got diagnosed like maybe 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Me too.
And it's wow.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I just didn't understand why I had to struggle so hard to do what everyone else did so easily.
Yeah. Like reading?
Yeah.
Like reading on staff?
Well, for me, it's been, it's called auditory processing disorder. And things that I hear go to my brain in a different pattern. It's like, what's the one with reading where things get jumbled up?
Dyslexia?
Yeah, it's like dyslexia for the ears for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would show up to rehearsals having learned some horn part that wasn't in the same key, same notes, it's different rhythms. Like I was playing things that weren't on the tape.
Oh my gosh.
That I sat down and spent hours learning, and my brain just jumbled them all up.
Wow.
So figuring that out was a big deal.
And what do you do for that? I have the same issue, by the way. Our son, was having some issues in school.
Yeah.
So we had him tested. And, I'm so much like my son in many, many ways. So I went and got tested. And, after about 6 months of watching our son deal with it, then I got tested and realized auditory processing and ADD. And no wonder I couldn't, I've always had trouble sight reading.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that when I was trying to teach my students how to sight read, I realized, boy, this is a hard thing to teach because I don't do it well myself. Then it was years later that I realized I've got sort of a disability, I guess you could call it. How did you find out how did you get tested or diagnosed?
Oh, I just went, I noticed I was having issues that weren't that necessarily.
Okay.
And so I just went to get tested at a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and taking that test was kind of mind-blowing because I'm sitting there thinking, oh, this is a waste of time.
Yeah.
But every question was like, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Wow.
I had no idea. So it was a big relief to just even find out. And then, medication helps.
Yeah.
And diet and
does.
exercise help.
Right.
And there's still good days and bad days. And I can tell when I'm having a bad day. And it's just, things just aren't working.
Okay.
And
how do you cope with that?
Just do something else.
Do something else.
Yep.
That's
it's
a great
not
idea.
happening today.
Right. Walk away.
Yep.
Change it up.
Yeah.
God, thanks for sharing that stuff.
You bet.
I feel like, I know I've had these issues since I was a child, didn't know about them. I had two parents that were educators, but we just didn't talk about that stuff back then, or we didn't, because I guess I got good enough grades in school.
Same.
I didn't learn until I went to college that I had some issues, but I still didn't know what they were until later in life. So I feel like more musicians are talking about these things more and more, and I think it's helpful because kids at a younger age can figure out what's keeping them from attaining what they want to. It's really great to hear you talk about that stuff. So learning difficult stuff is a frequent occurrence.
Oh yeah.
Could you describe what your approach is? So give us an example of a show you were preparing for and how you started, because sometimes I'm so overwhelmed. I'm looking at all these charts, or I'm looking at this YouTube playlist, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to tackle this stuff.
Right.
I mean, do you have any suggestions, or can you tell us how you do it?
This is what works for me, is because I spent so many years going to all those rehearsals and literally walking out and just almost having a meltdown because I was so frustrated and embarrassed.
Yeah,
frankly.
totally.
Just
I
get it. And I know for a lot of years, until I figured this out, it was like, oh, Aaron's the guy who doesn't do his homework, and they were right because I would stop doing it. I would just there's no point in me spending 6 hours
Yeah.
learning like 6 or 8 tunes.
Yeah.
And just simple horn parts, nothing even crazy, and being so wrong that it was a waste of time.
No. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
luckily, like I said, I play with Adam a lot, and he's aware now of what happens with me. And
Yeah.
what would happen then was when I would get to rehearsal, I would watch him play, and when it's right there in front of me, even though he's playing trumpet and I'm playing trombone, it lands differently in my brain. So if I can listen to him for even just a second,
Yeah.
I can catch on really fast in person.
Wow.
Versus listening to the YouTube playlist or Spotify or whatever, and when I can't see it, it's a mystery.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really neat that you can get help from Adam just in the form of him playing it
Just
first,
him,
or
just him being there even.
Yeah. You trust him. You guys are.
Yes.
Every time I see you guys together, you look like brothers.
Yeah.
And it's great to hear you playing together. And so I can imagine it's fun, but
it's
also important to have.
And somebody who's got your back the whole time. You know?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. This is so cool. So, Funky Butt, you guys are busy.
Yeah, we stay busy.
Like, on average, how many gigs a month?
Well, last week we did 5.
In a week?
Last weekend.
Last weekend?
Last weekend, and this weekend I think is another 4.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, this month has been.
Do you go out of town? You guys
occasionally, just whenever it pays. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we pretty much stick around here. There's plenty of work around here.
Right.
And we can do pretty much whatever we want.
I get to hear you guys Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Nice. Which
which one?
The recovery show?
Yeah, the recovery.
Oh, okay, you're part of that.
I am.
Right on.
And I get to play with Galaxy.
Oh, nice.
And I'm excited. We did that last year. It's
cool.
A great event. The weather was perfect last year. I
didn't realize until this morning that was like a public event.
It sure is.
I had no idea.
I know. I think that in recovery, and I'm in recovery.
Yeah.
There's a certain aspect where people don't talk about other people being in it,
right?
Because of anonymity issues, and you really have to pay attention to see all of the promotion for these events, and it's ironic because they're trying to get more people in the community aware of recovery, whether in recovery or not.
Yeah.
And this event, it was great last year, and I've heard about some things that they've done to make it even better. One of those big things is having you guys play.
Yeah.
There's 4 bands this year,
right?
And Jake's Leg is another
right.
band.
I just saw that this morning too.
Yeah. In fact, my wife said, "Are you playing Recovery Fest Sunday?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Is Jake's Leg playing?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, I'm going."
Yeah,
it's
going to be fun. Can I ask you a personal question about recovery?
Oh, absolutely.
Answer if you want. Don't.
No,
I'm curious. I've always wanted to ask you this.
Oh,
did you notice a difference with your trombone playing before and after? And what was that like?
Yeah. Well, great question. I was getting to a point where I was drinking and playing all the time, drinking all the time while playing.
Yeah.
Even if I set out at the beginning of the night and said, I'm not going to drink tonight,
right?
Somehow I ended up drunk.
Yeah.
Usually because, everybody else is doing it, but I don't seem to be doing it as well as everybody else. The things that I was doing towards the end that are playing related is going to sit in with people and just being really intoxicated.
Yeah.
And then wondering, why don't I get calls to play with anybody? It didn't make me play any better.
Yeah.
Then playing with the bands that I normally played with, it was stuff like, I'd call the drummer the next morning and say, Toby, do I have anybody to apologize to? And there was always someone I needed to call.
Yeah.
And I thought I was doing a heck of a job.
Right.
And that everybody else was just being really critical. So in sobriety, I have I've tackled a lot of personality issues and self-confidence issues, which is making me a better player just by nature of knowing how to practice and become a better player, and not complaining that I wasn't a better player. I used to complain but not do the work. Part of that was I didn't know how to do the work. I've learned how to approach things in a clear-headed way and get better at things I'm trying to get better at. And also with Dan's book, Dan's book is helping me see that, like, I'm never going to be perfect, and that even though I still see things I want to get better at, just go easy on myself. Right? So, you know, just like try to get better. I try to list the things out that I want to get better at, and I just go easy on myself, you know, and do the work that I can do, and not hate myself about it. And so really stopping drinking and drugging helps me just deal with myself and the world around me. So playing became better because I cared about it. Now the first few years were tricky because I wasn't used to caring about it. So I would feel a certain strange discomfort with playing in bands, and especially people I didn't know, and I couldn't figure it out for a while, and I finally realized it's because I care now. And when you're drinking, you kind of have it's easy to sort of say, I don't care, you know, or people like not even notice really what you're doing. And so, you know, for me it works. Being sober works, and you know, for all of my relationships, especially with, you know, my loved ones and my family, you know, I'm a better version of myself, and there's nothing wrong with that. We just went to Bourbon and Beyond. In Louisville. Big bourbon and whiskey fest, and you know, I didn't really, you know, care too much that everybody was drinking the bourbon. It was really expensive. I probably would have been pissed that it wasn't free samples. You know?
Me too.
But, you know, because like on a gig, I don't know about you, but in my drinking days, if the bar wasn't free, I'd get kind of pissed.
And I'll tell you, that's what sucks about St. Louis, is it's pretty rare here to get a free bar tab or even a little bit. In here, and you go to any other town, any other city, and the band is taken care of. 100%.
Well, I wondered if that's changed over the years or stayed the same in the last 10 years, because I don't know, but
a couple of the places we play, like literally within the last year or so, will at least give us a decent little break at the end of the night or something.
Don't you think? Don't you think they should? I mean, it's funny how I was thinking about how prices have changed, but musician compensation really hasn't changed, and you know, the price of a beer is tripled or quadrupled, and yet we're still getting paid the same.
I make the exact same money I made in 1996.
It's just so bizarre. How did COVID affect you, your band?
We laid pretty low, and and it was. I think the hardest part about that was we've all been so connected emotionally and musically. Like, that band is just a gang. I mean, that's a gang of brothers. And I wouldn't trade them for the world. So not being able to just be with them and you know, fart around and have a good time, you know, with my guys. That was the hardest part, I think. Even above not playing music. It was not being with my guys, you know.
How long were you guys out of commission?
We did a couple of things here and there. We played at the pageant, and they brought in a crew to live stream.
I remember that. That was a really great show.
Thank you. That's the band Fish's live video crew.
Oh, you're kidding.
That's the crew that does Fish.
How did you get that?
The man who owns that company is based here.
Get out of town.
Yeah. So and they had a little thing happening with the
It looked pretty slick
to
it was
put
a
on
great
that.
show.
Thank you. It was. I mean, it was weird to play to an empty 2,000 seater.
Well, yeah, because so energy, like you guys
Yeah.
really feed on the energy, I
Yeah.
imagine, because
Yeah.
you're giving it off and you're probably
Yeah.
getting it back, right?
Yeah. So what we had to do was just pretend we had to know that people are at home watching this right now.
Mm.
You know, and that helped a lot. But
Was there any way to tell how many people watched it?
no.
Weird.
Yeah.
So then after, like, when would you say you were back up and running?
We fired back up about a year after or so.
Wow.
Might have been. We'd done a couple of things here and there.
Yeah.
But at some point it was like, okay, I think it was after like vaccines came out and all that.
Okay.
It was like, okay, we're gonna just do it.
Mhm.
You know.
Do you worry at all anymore about putting on events and wondering if they're going to get canceled, or is that not happening
Not
anymore?
really. Mostly just for any kind of like, for us, like any kind of health issues with us, you know, like, oh, are we somebody gonna be sick or whatever?
Yeah,
you know?
right.
But not really anymore. We're just gonna keep going until they make us stop again.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of going, you want to do some playing?
Yeah, let's do it.
What, you want to do some blues?
Yeah, I'd love it if you play that bass for me.
Okay, yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
When I started, when I was in college, there was a local blues band down there. I was like 20 years old, and they were in their mid 40s, and they introduced me to all the blues greats, man.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, Albert King and
wow.
Albert Collins and little Johnny Taylor. And
Johnny Taylor.
Just
That's
great
amazing.
stuff I would have never known about otherwise.
That's how you got into it.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of nights with those guys just really digging in on blues, and that's where I really found a voice.
Really?
Yeah.
When you were talking about your voice, I was thinking about what I hear when you play, and now that you say what you said about blues, and especially like Johnny Taylor, great vocalist.
Oh yeah.
And you kind of vocalize, like
Yeah.
you come off as a vocalist, like because you have a voice. You're playing trombone, but you're singing. I mean,
Yeah.
I hear singing.
Yeah, a lot
when
of
I
there are
hear you.
lyrics going through my head.
Really?
I'm usually making up lyrics.
Wow.
So I'm making the words fit with the notes, or vice versa.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So how do you want to do this? You want to?
Yeah, you can just lay it down and we'll do it.
Yeah, man. Awesome. That's great. God,
It's
you
fun,
sound so
man.
good.
Oh, thank you.
That is a big mouthpiece.
It's a 7. It's
It seems so long. I guess.
I think it's long because I didn't want to cut enough meat away when I did that taper adjustment.
Okay.
To let it sit down, and it should probably be sitting down there, another quarter of an inch or so.
Wow.
But this is also the flavor I've been playing with for, 12 years since I switched over to this horn with this mouthpiece.
Yeah.
And it just works. I've tried this mouthpiece on other same horns, same models.
Yeah.
I have 5 of them at home.
Do you really?
I have the same one, yeah. And
That's incredible.
yeah, it doesn't play the same. The other ones don't play like this one does.
Really?
This is the number one.
Wow. Well, you know, when you have something that works, why change it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, this has been great having
great,
you on the
John.
show. I really
This is
appreciate it. I love talking with you. I
Yeah.
love listening to you play.
Oh, I think same, man. Whenever I get to come out and hear you, I always when I walk in, I remember walking into Venice. It was during COVID.
Oh,
and
wow.
you were there with Tommy's band.
Yeah.
And I just went and
Yeah.
sat in the corner.
Oh, neat.
And man, I got just chills when I hear you play. And I don't know
Thanks.
how you play that high all night. I would be dead.
You
I
know,
couldn't do it.
I was a quick story about Jim Manley. I was working at Streetside Records, and it was 1991, and Jim Manley came in the store, and we knew each other. I knew more about him than he knew about me, but he knew I played trombone, and I asked him what his secret was about playing high, and he gave me some advice that day that I never forgot. I always teach my students, and it has to do with the corners of your mouth. If you look at a lot of players and they're kind of smiling back like this, that stretches out your lip real thin, okay? And he's telling me this, right? He's like, you anchor your corners of your mouth right where they normally are, and you just hold that really firm, and now you can bring your lips together and you have more meat that's there because it's not stretched out.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I just started right then doing, I call it lip ups. It's, you know, I just do this practice where I tense the corners of my mouth, I let it relax, tense it up, let it relax, tense it up. This is something I do when I'm driving, when I'm, you know, sitting in a meeting and I'm bored, whatever. If I can think about it, I'll do it. And then when I'm playing, I'm just anchored right there. And then I can, you know, pull my lips tight. And now I can't always play I can't really play that high all night. Thank you for that.
Oh, I hear it.
But I, you know, I always do get to a point, if I'm doing it wrong, I'll get to a point where I'm fatigued and can't do it. But that just means I'm not doing the air right. It's always like the basics. Doing the air, tight lips, center of the mouth. You know, a lot of, when I was a kid, I played off to the side. That's a whole section of your lips you can't use.
Right.
So, you know, center of the mouth, anchored lips, and air support. It's the basic stuff.
Fundamentals, coach.
Yeah, the fundamentals, exactly. But I appreciate you asking me that. And
can we do this again where I ask you questions? Because I feel like I answered a lot of the questions that I want to know about you and your history and your playing.
Oh man, well, anytime. Yeah. Let's hang.
We'll do a part 2 sometime.
Okay, that's great. Well,
I love that.
I can't thank you enough.
Thanks, John.
This is great.
I appreciate you, man.
Aaron Chandler, St. Louis gem, plays with Funky Butt Brass Band. You can catch him all the time, sometimes 5 times in a weekend.
Yep.
And thanks again, Aaron. It's been a pleasure. Okay.
Awesome.